Welcome to Mindfulness Manufacturing, the podcast for manufacturing leaders and professionals.
Designed for high impact on your way to work or unwind on your way home to gain clarity for tomorrow.
Step out of your comfort zone and discover new perspectives to add value, get results, and make a difference.
Yes, let's jump in.
There's a lot of activity, consternation, anxiety about employment right now, with manufacturers not being able to find people to staff jobs, positions. We've got employers just, there's a mass exodus from the workforce of skilled labor and people. And we're going to talk today about how to be mindful, whether you're an employer or a candidate or an employee, about what are some of the things to be thinking about, where sometimes on the surface, what may seem obvious or clear. Trevor, let's unpack that a little bit today in mindfulness manufacturing. I mean, we're talking a big issue here that it's always not going to be this way. But right now, man, if there's a few gems that we can walk away from today, that'd be awesome to just share with our guests. I got to say, hey, look, I'm no expert in the solution, but I can certainly help guide, ask powerful questions to get you thinking along this concept of being mindful relative to your employment or seeking quality employees. Trevor, what do you think?
Well, excited for our industry and the fact of people are needed. There are opportunities. We talk about being excited for growth and the manufacturing industry, which you and I love, which we're still drawn to.
Yeah.
And it's really making it. I always have this saying that I want my daughter to work in manufacturing, and I want to be able to say that and say, hey, this is a great industry because. And the statistic that I brought up before is the engagement level in manufacturing is about 7% less. And there is an article in CNN that really attracted me in the business. American factories are desperate for workers. It's a $1 trillion problem. So we know that in March of 2021, it surged to a 37-year high in manufacturing activity. And the talent shortage is not new, especially in the trades. But now it's not just trades, it's all these positions. It's production team members that we have a shortage of. And talking to people in the industry every week lately, it's, Trevor, I've never seen this. Like, what's going on?
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. I was talking to someone last week in a smaller manufacturer, and they have difficulty in competing with some of the larger manufacturers in the area. And the bottom line is they've got 10, 15 jobs that are just going vacant, and they're working their current, staff overtime to compensate. And, it was funny. The last thing that was said was, man, we don't need any more criteria to filter or screen candidates. We just need warm bodies. And, that made me shiver, quite honestly, in the sense that, yeah, we can go get the warm bodies, but what you end up bringing in and what you end up shaping your culture with, just to put hands on the handles, it's a true dilemma. It is a true dilemma, because it's like we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater when we say, we got open positions. We just need a warm body. And I've heard that, for years in industry. We don't want just a warm body, but here in 2021, are we really saying that we just want a warm body? And that's how desperate we are right now to just fill positions.
that pressure that people are feeling right now of the overtime. There's many plants that we've talked to that are short 10, 20, 30 people, and they just can't get them. So what that means is that there's more pressure on the current staff. And if you want to keep that current staff, what's the light at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah.
Why stay with this company? And the whole attitude of, well, you get paid well and you get good benefits, so you should be happy. That's not cutting it. And at the flip side, exactly what you're saying, Dave, is I don't want to be a warm body, right? I want to feel valued.
Yeah.
And it's a long tail. So when it comes to mindfulness, it's not a quick fix. When I've talked to people and I'm like, how can I support you? It's like, help me with recruiting. I'm not a recruiter. Sorry. I stay in my lane. However, if you want to create a brand of your organization, or even a brand of yourself, what's your values? Then yeah, we can help with that. And in the long term, that's when people will stay with you through those tough times.
Yeah.
Because you've created that community of valued. When people feel valued, I've talked to people, it's like, I don't want to do this to my company because I don't want to let them down. And it's like, oh, wow, that company's done something special to make that person say that. Tell me more.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a buddy I talked to just yesterday, and he said he's working 12-hour shifts 6 days a week, in which he normally works 5 days a week. But these 12-hour shifts are the result of being short-staffed in the organization. And I asked him, I said, Charlie, how is this impacting your family? How is this impacting your decision making? How is this impacting your finances? And he's like, man, the money's great. I'm taking it while I can, but quite honestly, I'm drinking more than I ever have. I'm not sleeping as good as I should and know. And right now, I'm just hanging on. I'm that guy with the four fingers hanging on the edge of the cliff, hoping that this 12-hour thing ends. And I couldn't say, well, hang in there, it'll get better. I was at a loss for what to say to him. And that's just an example of the kind of pressure that so many people are under right now. And his consideration in being mindful of, is it time for me to look for a new job? Because there's a ton of new jobs out there. So as an employer working their current staff 12-hour shifts with no end in sight, are we in fact actually driving our workforce away? As an employer, how mindful are we of the impact we're having on our workforce in our ability to motivate and inspire, retain them, as well as how are you going to recruit and be that attractive employer if you've got a revolving door and people, as soon as people walk in, they get hit with a bunch of crap of, you're going to work 12 hours for the unforeseeable future. There's considerations on both the employer side and the employee side in making mindful decisions in moving forward. What would some of those be, Trevor? I mean,
that for manufacturers, what they're saying is it's going to be 36% harder to find talent today than it was in 2018. That's going to continue to grow. And we also know that when people are appreciated and valued, then they stay and they'll tell their friends. So it's not a matter of handing out more ice cream on Friday or company picnics or bonuses. It's really, are we intentional as a leadership team to show genuine one-on-one appreciation? Just in a meeting yesterday, and they were talking about appreciation at a plant. and just compounding it. So somebody brought up that a team member did something great, and then they put it into the shift notes. That shift notes got posted. It got read by the employee. They said it to somebody else. Then the general manager heard about it. He says, "Oh, I'm going to go talk to that individual." So that's the essence. It's not a magic trick. It's not something that's materialistic. It's a matter of, if you can label it, you can tame it. So let's talk about the fact that we're working 12-hour shifts. And what are we doing? And what are we communicating? Those are stuff that's in our control. Do you see it as important as not or not?
Yeah, I mean, and I hate to sound like, a cliche here, but if you've got massive turnover right now, do we blame the market, the job market right now, to where, yeah, people are just leaving because there's so many other opportunities out there? Or are we looking within and saying, okay, what does my frontline leader look like? How are they treating these folks that are walking out the door? And maybe we want some of them to walk out the door. It's a great opportunity to, cleanse the blood, perhaps, but that's not really what we're hearing. What we're hearing is we've got great talent leaving, and often, in many cases, are leaving for shift preference. They're leaving for a quarter an hour. They're leaving to not have to drive as far. And when the rubber meets the road, in my experience, I could be all wet on this, but man, if we love our boss, those are not the reasons people leave their jobs. It's just not. And I've seen that. I've seen people stay in organizations 20 plus years where they may be working 12-hour shifts, but the treatment, the communication, the transparency from the leadership team on what's going on, that's why they've stayed. The ones that, are here a year and leave because they were at their previous employer for a year and left, and their previous employer a year and left, those are the ones that, man, they don't have any skin in the game. They're not willing to put skin in the game. But it's not their issue. It's the immediate frontline leaders issue. And I'm talking hourly team leader. I'm talking first line supervisor, not staff managers, not plant managers. I'm talking that immediate frontline leader. You agree? I mean, am I making this stuff up or what?
This is the great thing about having our own podcast, Dave. We can say what we want to say. And we can say that, hey, if you're telling yourself right now that the reason you have turnover is because of the government and the subsidies that they've given out, and people are sitting at home where they could be working, or it's so hot here, or the work is more difficult, or we can't pay as much as other companies, those are all excuses in my mind, because there are manufacturing plants that have tougher conditions that are having people stick through. And what I heard a supervisor tell one of their employees the other day, this is through a second party, who basically said, hey, if you don't follow this, you don't do this, you can go flip hamburgers somewhere. Well, first of all, the first reason I don't like that comment is because that's a respectable position in itself. Someone needs to flip burgers. Every position out there provides value. And at the same time, I hear people complaining because they can't get their burger because it's shut down, because they had to shut down early because they can't find enough staff. So you better be grateful for every employee out there providing some level of service and whatever you need. And what I'm finding is that people coming out of this pandemic are less empathetic to waiting for that burger instead of being more grateful.
Yeah.
So tying it back to, are your frontline leaders speaking the messages of your core values? Because if you're telling them they can go flip burgers somewhere else, then I don't know what your core values are, but I can't see someone documenting core values like that. So the first step really is, are we aligned as a leadership team as a values? Can our employees call out our leadership and say, whoa, dude, if you're speaking to me like that, maybe I don't want to work here. or maybe you're not the right fit.
Exactly. And that's where this huge disconnect is. We've got employers with leaders speaking to and treating employees in a way as if they're just a commodity, not a human being. And then we've got employees thinking that, well, it's an employee market. I can go work anywhere, anytime that I want. And when those two worlds collide, I mean, that's a formula for disaster. But, an employee currently employed, 1 year or more that says, hey, I'm going to go, change jobs. To be mindful, what's, the question, like, okay, so the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. How do you know the environment that you're going to is going to be better? How do you know that? How will you know that? I mean, that's a great question. And I have rarely talked with anyone that has been confident that, other than the pay is going to be more, or the benefit be more, or geographically it's closer, I've rarely, if ever, talked to anybody who has said, yep, I know that the grass is going to be greener on the other side, because I've talked to my boss, my immediate boss, the one who I'm going to be taking direction from day to day. And you know what? I really like them. Man, that doesn't happen in the employment process. And as a candidate, you try to go down that path, the employer is like, hey, we don't have time for that. You'll meet your boss when after you get hired and we do orientation. I mean, both parties in this equation have opportunity to where, if we could get on the same sheet, and that same sheet is with the employer taking the high road and setting some things up, such as expectations in how we talk to people, right? It's just that, I hate to say it's that simple, but it does boil back down to the grassroots of it all.
So you get me thinking here, Dave. There's a takeaway here for employees. If you're working in manufacturing right now, the first thing is, are you at the right place? And if something feels wrong, it probably is. But here's maybe an extra step before you go take a different job. It takes some courage, which takes some vulnerability, but it's like, have you really expressed that you're not okay someone talking to you like that, or you're not okay with where that environment's at? So how do you express that? And not all companies have formal open doors, but you know what? What's the risk? If you're not really happy working there right now, then, and if you think there's someone in that leadership group in the organization, whether it's an owner or a general manager or just HR or whoever you're comfortable with, express that. Say, I don't really like where we're going here. Is this a culture that we want? Because regardless of what we want, this is how I feel. And I'm an employee here and I don't like the way I feel. And I don't really want to leave, but the way I'm feeling doesn't make me want to stay. Help me.
Yeah.
Then you can really help manufacturing, right? If you go through that exercise, and like Dave said, you are going to switch, and you really want to make sure that you're not just switching for $1 more an hour, then go on that company's website. What are their core values? And then social media is pretty easy. Try to connect with someone that works there. It's a small world. And what is it really like to work there? There's a lot of more feedback online now through Glassdoor and other websites. So like Dave said, do your research. The information's out there before you go. Find out, are they living to their values or not?
Yeah. And from an employer perspective, it's like, how do our leaders communicate pending change to the rest of the team? When's the last time the leader consulted somebody who's going to be directly impacted by the change as to either it's coming or what they think about it or the best way to implement it. I mean, involving others in decisions that affect your work is leadership 101. And the example you gave earlier about, hey, if you don't like it, go flip burgers somewhere. For that to be tolerated in an environment in which we are struggling to find great people, right, to get the job done, shame on ourselves, right, for turning a blind eye to that. And then the next step is like, well, we can't find leaders. We can't find good leaders. So those are the only ones we can find. And so you're just in this catch-22, and it's not easy. And, I don't mean to be going off on this, but it starts one leader at a time, starts one employee at a time, and building and growing that relationship. Man, it's a powerful, potentially inflammatory subject right now, but it's not, Trevor, again, like you said, it's not the government's problem right now. The government's handing out, giving handouts, right? And there's no motivation for people to even go into work. I get that. But you know what? People feel better being productive than they do sitting at home watching Dr. Oz or Dr. Phil or whatever it is. And it's like people want to be engaged in society, have a network, to be with their tribe, to share common interests and it's an inherent thing for human beings to want to be productive. As an employer, we sometimes sabotage that, and we give people the excuse that, nope, can't do it. If you don't, you're out of here. If you don't like it, I told you once, if I tell you again, go pound sand. Anyway.
Well, whether you're working in manufacturing as a leader, as a team member, if you're thinking about switching jobs, if you're an employer, Dave and I are obsessed with this topic. We've committed our lives to it, and we love it. And if you want to reach out to either of us just to have a conversation, and that's happened multiple times just through a random person on LinkedIn, we will get back to you. We'll give you that time because that is our mission. And we learn from every person that we talk to. We get more data on what is going on in the industry. How do we have a greater impact? How can we help others? How do you push back to this universe positive support? Someone's thinking about quitting, or there's a leader maybe in an organization that wants to drive a culture change and not sure of those next steps. Let's have that conversation. Please reach out. That's your call to action. Or maybe just talk to someone that you're comfortable with that's in your circle. But please help us keep the conversation going. Let's make manufacturing a mindful place to work. Thanks for taking the time to join us today. How you show up matters.
We'd love for you to subscribe, share with a colleague, and tell us what you think.
Your feedback's important to provide this high-quality, powerful program that makes a difference in your life and others. Take care.
See you next time.